Hello and welcome back to Before You Build. I am Ariana Adireh Anderson.
And I'm Brandon Holland, Senior Sales Manager at ARIID Build.
And today we're going to talk about a topic that's a little bit different than our typical ones. And that is, do we move or do we renovate? Like that's been a question that came up. And that's like more, a lot of things than just construction, but it also ties in very much into budgets and construction. So let's start. What does it actually cost like to renovate? What to take into consideration?
Yeah, I mean, so to renovate, what your true costs are going to be, there's two camps on this. There's one camp that severely underestimates the cost of a renovation. And, then there's also the camp that severely exaggerates the cost of it. And you don't know. So the best course of action is to get real numbers so that you can make an informed decision
Yeah,
before you.
and it tells you there's more than just like one element. Renovation can mean so much, right?
Yeah,
It's like lipstick cleanup, which is different than full gut renovations, and
right.
those will be separate ballpark in the point. So renovation,
Yeah.
that's one topic. The other topic is like, I don't want to worry about it. I just want to like sell and move. It's not going to cost me anything if I
Right.
just sell and move.
Lie. That's a big lie. Yeah.
Why
So,
would you say that?
well, as people don't think about the fact, okay, so you have your agent's commissions, right?
Yeah, sure.
And then you have, your capital gains tax a lot of times if you haven't been in the home for 2 years. You can pay anywhere from 8 to 10% just to sell your home by the time everything's said and
Yeah.
done. And so when you look at that on a typical house in Bellevue, I mean, that can be $100 to $200,000 that you didn't figure on losing
Yeah,
because you chose to sell your
100,
house.
$1,000 plus. So
Yeah.
like if you take that money now, it's like, ooh, I pretty much can have a kitchen, a bathroom, right? Like I
Right.
have value that I can add. So like, yeah, that's actually is a lot of money. So moving actually costs us money. So what are the things that sometimes people that live in their home for so long, they just like don't see it anymore because they're so
Right.
used to their home, where the bathroom is, where the kitchen is.
Yep.
Like,
This happens all the time. And for me, I notice it when I travel
mm,
because whenever I travel to a new place, I start falling in love with it. I start looking at home prices. I get on Trulia and that gets me into trouble. And so what I've started doing is when I come home from a trip, I try to look at where I live. The Puget Sound area is absolutely, it's gorgeous.
mhm.
Nothing compares to it, but I try to look at it with fresh eyes. And so that's what I would suggest to people. When you walk into your home, when you go to the store and you come back, try to look at it with fresh eyes because, sometimes we forget how amazing our homes actually are.
And probably to add to that too, like especially deciding do I move or to stay, is also location.
Yeah.
Where's your home located? Like, is it the right school district for your kids?
Hmm.
Is this neighborhood that has 100, 200-year-old trees
Right.
that really, if you move and buy a new home somewhere in a development, you're just not going to have that.
A lot of times we build our lives around where we live.
Yeah.
Our commute to work is fantastic. 15-minute commute is worth $1 million to me.
100%.
And
Yeah.
so I've done it both ways. And I will tell you, the commute is important. The school districts are definitely important. You also have to think about the impact on your children.
Hmm.
They have friends, the sports that they play, the groups that they're involved with. A lot of times when you move, you're going to end up moving to a new area where all of those things are going to change and be new. You lose those relationships.
Areas like Kirkland, Bellevue, like if you have a current home, it would be like, hey, if you don't like your home and you don't like it so much, let's just like tear it down, rebuild,
Right,
right?
right.
But you have a beautiful lot, you have a good location that is, priceless.
Yeah. And also, I mean, look at replacement costs too, because when you have a home that you fell in love with it at one point,
Yeah.
it was perfect
Hopefully,
for you.
right?
I mean, yeah. Most people when they buy a home, they loved it at one point. And really, I mean, the things that are eyesores or that kind of distract you from what the home could be, I mean, a lot of times it's just cosmetic upgrades.
And or it could be, like it's time for that addition.
Yeah.
It's time to put in those bigger windows. Maybe you bought a home and it's like, well, I hate the low ceilings at 8 feet. Like, but even that can be modified and
Right.
changed. Like you can take your existing home and do a lot to it, really,
Yeah.
and still be in the beautiful neighborhood that you love. Now, of course, if you're not in and like I hate my neighborhood, I'm time to move, like, yeah, that's no brainer. But if you're like on the verge of like or like on the edge, do I just stay and do something to the current property versus moving? I think what we're seeing is like moving is not free.
Right.
And in addition, like, sure, now you decide to move. You moved maybe a few streets over, you bought a new home, and now you're kind of in square one to
Right.
some degree, right? Like,
Yeah. And so really you have to look at what your current home has, right?
yes.
From a build standpoint, your lot orientation, your drainage, privacy, the
Mhm.
size of the lot,
Yeah.
those are factors that you really need to consider because when you're looking at it, relocating to a new home, is it going to have all those things that, you actually don't fully appreciate that you already have?
Yeah. So that's like evaluating and looking what your current lot has. Now we decided, you decided to move. It was you were in the wrong neighborhood. You didn't want to be there anymore. The commute was too long. You found a beautiful home. You moved to it. But it also comes with kind of the same things, like a
Yeah.
lot of things. It's like a lot of times, unless it's a brand new home and you build it from ground up, more likely in the next 5 years, if not
Right.
immediately, you will be it's square one renovating
Yep.
because either the kitchen now is not to the standards, or maybe the home was never renovated at all, or the bathroom hasn't been
Yeah.
updated.
Unless you're buying a lot and building completely new structure that's a custom home, you're going to have these same issues with a new home that you had with your existing home. And so I catch myself, and I'm guilty of this, when I look at homes and I'm deciding whether or not I want to buy it. I am constantly finding myself thinking about, okay, I would renovate this. Before I move in, I want to do this bathroom. I want to update the kitchen. A lot of times you're doing all these things to this new home in your mind that you could have just done to the home that you were in and not had to move.
Right, right. That too. As long as your property is where you want, I think it
Yeah.
comes down to location, location, location. That's what
Yeah.
my dad used to say. It's like, that's the most important thing. And he's right, right? Like,
Well, yeah, let's talk about, so how do you tell if a home has good bones and like whether it's worth
yeah,
renovating?
or like demoing and starting from scratch. Like, really, I think it kind of comes down to a few things: is how much of modification you want to do to it. So let's say if your ceilings are too low,
Right.
if the orientation layouts, and you're moving the kitchen from one end of the house to the next, and if you're doing it for multiple, especially like bathrooms, because those are the hardest to
Right.
do. If you're tearing a lot of walls and trying to put them up again, then there's a point of where to redo could cost more than just, wiping it clean. And when we say, it
Right.
could still be considered remodel if you have like, part of foundation and maybe half of a wall still
Right.
there.
Right.
So it still could fall under that category. But what you're doing is you're pretty much tearing it down to foundation and redoing the floor plan completely. So I think it goes down into, and I didn't think I know for sure, it goes down into percentage of the home.
Right.
So if you're getting the whole 100%, there's a lot of issues with layouts. Yeah, probably tear it down,
Yeah.
especially if it's smaller and you want to expand.
Yeah, and I've seen a lot of clients making this decision to, basically tear it down to the foundation. You leave a wall, or enough of a wall so that it counts as a renovation, and then they'll do an addition on top of that, and end up with a home that
It's a brand new.
exceeds anything that they could have purchased. It's basically a custom brand new home. You're not into it as much as you would be if
Yeah,
you're
and
doing a
then
full new build.
in addition to that, if especially if someone bought a home like 20 years ago, 10 years ago, the value of the property has changed. So like you are starting with pretty much, if you were to buy a piece of dirt, or even probably, I don't know if you could even find a piece of dirt for the
Right.
price you bought the home, you really are like have a lot of equity in that sense of what you paid for a purchase of the home. So even like tearing it down, it's really like almost no brainer in some
Right.
cases, right? Because
Yeah,
it's
because
like,
you're into it. You're actually into the property less than if you were to buy that
right,
lot by
you're
itself
basically, if you were
now.
to
Yeah.
purchase it like right now, it probably you would be paying just for the dirt alone than for the home. So
Right.
like
And you already
you're,
have all your sewer in, your
yeah.
electricals in. I mean, all your infrastructure is in place.
So that
Yeah.
saves a lot of money versus buying a piece of just property per se and then trying to develop it. So
Yeah.
yeah, like I think that's really cool
Well,
insights.
let's talk about timeline. So
Yeah.
I want to get into timeline on both scenarios, because the reality of it is, if you're moving, there's a truncated timeline when you compare it to a home renovation. If you're doing a whole home renovation,
Yeah.
or
It could be a
you're
year,
doing a tear down rebuild, like we're
a year
talking
and a half.
about,
Yeah.
yeah,
Right.
by the time you go through design, permitting, and everything. So let's talk about the renovation side. Let's say we do have the perfect lot. We
Mhm.
have a good foundation. We're going to do a small addition, but we're going to tear it down, leave a wall, and call it renovation
Yeah.
addition. What's the timeline on that? And what are some ways you can manipulate, your timeline so that you're not without a home for too long?
Yeah, so like getting through all your construction documents, getting a permit. So like everything is already you interviewed your builders, you hired a team. So like you have everything lined up, you have your materials order, and then you move out.
Right.
And then you move out and
That's
like
the order of operations that
yeah,
you should follow. But I see people make this mistake where sometimes they get too anxious and they start
start
they
demoing
start demoing before all of that's in place.
before they
So
even have a permit, right? So it
yeah,
hasn't been even submitted. And they're like, let's demo it. And I'm like, okay.
yeah,
Right. So like, yeah, that would help with the timeline. So then you're out of your home for some time, but then you move into potentially a brand new home.
yeah.
Even like a full gut remodel. Like, yeah, those are pretty fun. And they're fun to do as well.
Absolutely. And at the end of the day, it's like you have a custom, home,
You do.
when you're
That's
when you're all
so
said and
true.
done.
At the end of the day, you'll have a custom home. So when it comes down to like weighing those things, what other things do we have that seem to be points of friction of people like trying to decide what to do?
Yeah. So I guess, when would moving make sense, right? We talked a lot about the renovation side, the options there, and I think we made a great case for it. But when would it make sense to move?
Probably like we kind of touched bases. We touched a little bit on that in the beginning. Like I think it's like location. Like if you're not happy with where the home is,
Yeah.
then sure. Like if you want to be on the water and your home is on the water, well, you have to move to
Right.
be in
Yeah.
the water, right? There's like no, there's no brain. That's logical.
Yeah, I guess the other thing to consider too is, your lot restrictions. I mean,
Yeah.
sometimes a lot just won't allow
Yeah.
for adding on.
Yeah.
A lot of times you need to look at resale value. If you're building this home to just live in it, age in place, and spend the rest of your life in this one spot, I think you consider the resale value a lot less.
Oh,
But most
you
people,
shouldn't consider resale value. Like, it does not matter, right?
yeah,
What someone inherits and inherits. That's not
right,
but, like, if you are planning to sell, yes, then you should talk to your real estate agent
yeah,
or, someone that can evaluate of how much this neighborhood can expend too, because, We wanna give good suggestions, and we don't ever want you to, like, put so much money that you can't really take it back.
The comparables aren't there in the neighborhood,
Yeah.
then, it might
It's
not
the
make
wrong
sense to do a $2 million renovation.
Yeah, if all the homes are, under a mill,
Yeah.
and you do a 2,000,000 plus $3,000,000 home, that's just not going to do well
Yeah.
when it comes to that.
And I also think the structural components of the home, if you have structural issues or
Yeah.
if you're restricted, I mean, a lot of times, depending on the roof style, sometimes you're limited on, how you can manipulate the footprint of the existing structure.
Sure. When we talk about like existing footprint of a home, and let's say you do not want to deal with the full build out,
Right.
then yeah, maybe it makes sense to move and then do something that's lighter, a remodel, which more likely, unless it's a brand new build, even with brand new builds, if
Yeah.
it's a builder grade, and we talked about those too,
Yeah.
right? They will have their own issues, even a brand new construction. If they're not custom and they're builder grade, it will require a few years of remodel.
One piece of advice I like to give people when they're looking to relocate, if they're looking at new homes and they constantly find themselves walking into these houses and thinking about renovation, if that's where your mind goes when you're looking at homes, then maybe consider backing off of, wherever your budget line is, the top line on your budget, back off of that a little bit. Look at homes that are a little bit less than where
Mhm.
your top line budget is and leave some room for that renovation budget.
Yeah.
Because if you're going to end up renovating, you can actually get a lot more out of a less expensive home most of the time by doing the renovation to it and having the room to
Even
be
a
able to do that.
larger renovation, like
Right.
changing the facade or
Yeah.
like the entry and so forth, which can be done.
And
So
it opens up your options, right? Because then you're not limited to the, 5 to 10% of homes that fit this budget range that
yeah,
you've come up with.
it's a
You
great
can actually
idea.
start looking at another 30 or 40% of the homes that are on the market, and then your options, they expand
So much
considerably.
better. Great. Well, I hope you found this helpful. And if you have more questions, please reach out to us. Please subscribe, like, comment. Would love to hear from you. And until next time.
This is before you build. Thank you.